So good afternoon, everybody. Really excited today to have what I will call is a friend, an old friend who I've known for a long time. We've traveled the country together supporting realtor causes. David Moore from Hudson United Mortgage, and he's also here with Conlan, who are out of our Elmsford office. And today they've got a presentation, Sell What's for Sale, and what you need to do. This is David's course, Sell What's for Sale. So Dave, I'm going to turn it right over to you so we can get started. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing, Adam? It's nice to see you again, as always. I think the first time you and I actually got to know one another was in San Diego at a national NAR event way back when. That was a while ago. Yeah, that was a good time. No, I want to get right into it because I know everybody, it's a Friday afternoon and it's beautiful outside, but there's a lot of important content here. And just as Adam mentioned to everybody, what Chris Conlan and I would like to do, my colleague Chris and I, is go through the panels, jot down your questions or put them into the chat, and then we'll get to them at the end of the presentation, because I know that when I walk you through these panels, you're going to have some questions about different elements that we're presenting here today. So sell what's for sale. It's kind of a play on words. I think one of the biggest concerns that agents have today, and these are your pain points, is low inventory, right? I mean, right now we're experiencing incredible demand for housing. I've looked at statistics out of HGAR, and listings are way up across the board, which is a good thing because that presents some more inventory for the buyers that are fleeing the highly densely populated areas of Brooklyn and Manhattan. I know Chris and I are seeing buyers relocating from those parts of the city into the suburbs of Westchester and Putnam and Rockland. So that's inventory. Lots of buyers can be very frustrating when you cannot find a home that you want to buy. There's not much to sell. Move-in ready, desirable homes sell fast with multiple offers. That's something we know. And of course, stale listings for those listing agents, houses that may be sitting on the market. Not as common today, but for some reasons, maybe it's overpriced, maybe it's a fixer-upper. Those are the pain points that most of the agents are relating to Chris and I these days. So the risk you take in not finding solutions, that buyers are going to look for another agent because you're not getting it done. And we want to help all of the agents capture the buyer and secure the sale by helping them develop a renovation skill set. Figure out how to meet the demand before the buyer moves in. So let's move right to the next slide. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about solutions to the problem. We're going to talk about benefits to the buyers and the sellers. We're going to talk about creating new opportunities for the agents, and what are we talking about? And we're going to hammer out some details. How to have that conversation with a prospective buyer when they're looking at a fixer-upper. We're not going to overwhelm you with a lot of mumbo-jumbo mortgage jargon, but we're going to talk about how to discuss the renovation loan opportunity. And we want to be here as a resource to all of you. So solutions to the problem. One of the solutions is get more move-in ready homes. And I put ha-ha on there because if that were the solution, then we really wouldn't have much to talk about here today. There just are very few move-in ready properties available for buyers to look at. The other solution is sell the inventory that's sitting. And why is it sitting? How many here think you know everything about renovation loans and how to solve the problems? Our focus today is not going to be about overpriced inventory. The focus today is about the inventory that is not in prime condition and buyers have no vision. And one of the responsibilities of the agent today in a low inventory market is to help open their eyes, not just to the potential to the property, but how to accomplish it. Many buyers don't have a clue. Maybe they haven't spoken to a loan officer. Maybe they're not familiar with the renovation lending program or process. They don't understand that they can make all those improvements their way without coming out of pocket. And we can push all those expenses into a 30-year payout, which in many cases makes it very practical and affordable for a home buyer. So a lot of agents have listings that are sitting too because of condition. And this is where the renovation loan becomes a solution. So moving on to the next slide. More choices mean the best choice. Wanted to highlight a few things. For buyers, here's the benefits to the buyer. Buy now before prices and interest rates go higher. Rates are at historical lows. It's a great time to buy. The benefit to the buyer in a renovation loan for the listing agent and for the buyer is that usually you can avoid a bidding war on a fixer-upper, a property that needs a little tender loving care. There's more of a selection of properties and more choices, and that means the best choice. Now, I have a lot of agents who say there's no inventory in the better school districts. So a buyer may walk in your door and say, I want to be in the Scarsdale School District. I want to be in the Somers School District. But there's no inventory based on their price point for you to show them. Well, in this particular instance, we want you to show them some of the fixer-uppers that may have been sitting on the market, and the renovation loan is the solution for them. And we're going to get to that in a second about how you could best present the renovation option to a prospective home buyer who absolutely has to be in a particular school district where there's very low inventory of homes for sale. To the buyer, it provides more negotiating room. If a house is in disrepair, needs some loving, tender care, usually there's more of an opportunity for the agent to leverage certain negotiating points on behalf of the buyer, and you could get a good deal. The buyer can customize the house their way, and we're going to talk about what renovation loan will allow their way. That makes everybody pretty happy when you explain to them that they can put their signature on the design. You know, so many people watch HGTV today, and their heads are filled. Those programs are very popular, and their heads get filled with Property Brothers and you know, all these programs just get them thinking and inspires them to create a vision about how they can change a home and put their mark on it to their design style. It's a rapid equity build, and what we mean by that is if you buy the crummy home on the nice neighborhood or the nice block and they put some money into the home through renovation, often it will pay back. It will give them a reward, because many times when we finance a renovation loan on a property, it will appraise for higher than what we may have originally estimated based on the improvements to the property. So that's a quick way to build equity after purchasing a fixer-upper. It will improve resale value down the road. And that's kind of the exit strategy when you're talking to prospective buyers. Renovate the property the way you want. Down the road, it's going to carry more value. There's no question about it. Another benefit to the buyer is any house in any condition can become the buyer's perfect home. Say it again. Any house, any condition can become a buyer's perfect home. So what are some of the benefits to the seller? The seller can sell as is. No certificate of occupancy, open building code violations, hole in the roof, needs a new furnace, whatever the condition may be, the seller can sell as is. And of course, that's great for you guys, because when that fixer-upper closes, that's when you earn your income, and that's when loan officers earn their income. The appraisal won't be an issue. I'm sure I get calls frequently, as Chris Conlan does, from agents, listing agents who say, I'm selling this home, here's a condition, is that going to be a problem? Is that going to be a problem for an FHA loan? Well, with a renovation purchase mortgage, it's not a problem, and it does not really have to be addressed by the seller. Some sellers don't have the money to remedy whatever deferred maintenance issues there may be with the property, and renovation loans can solve that problem. So they no longer need to update or repair older homes in order to sell them. And it's a faster sale time. We provide marketing support to listing agents who are trying to sell properties that are in disrepair or need tender loving care. It's a complete marketing package that presents the virtues of renovation financing to prospective home buyers. And we try to create a vision for the home buyer, letting them know that FHA 203K and Fannie Mae home style renovation loans are good products. There's nothing that's difficult about them. There's a couple other layers of processing involved to get them where we need to be, but it's a solution. It's really a resourceful solution to get them into a house that they can renovate their way. So we want to create new opportunities for the RAND agents. And that's what this program does. That's what renovation financing does. It will help you sell lingering inventory. It helps avoid price reduction conversations. Who likes to have that conversation? Where maybe the house, which needs work, shag carpeting, walnut paneling, avocado green appliances, You know the story, and it's been sitting and sitting and sitting. Well, we can help you sell that lingering inventory by creating an understanding of the buyer of what renovation financing makes possible. And it avoids that conversation that you may have to have to reduce price. And after your 3 or 6 month listing agreement expires, you know, you may not have to worry about that. You don't want to lose listings, you want to secure the sale. And when you make your listing appointments to individuals who have homes that need work, this is something you can tell them. You can explain to them that you have a resource known as Hudson United Mortgage, and the very experienced loan officers over there who are renovation experts can help promote that aspect of the sale of the home. And that's going to, I think, install some confidence in people who are selling homes that they know need work. You get paid sooner, as I mentioned a moment ago. We can close the home as is, no need to worry about open COs or building code violations. It also creates a point of difference and an added value to your client when you are now equipped with the competitive edge, maybe over some other realtors, because they're not presenting this as an option to the homeowner. They're not discussing the potential and possibility of aligning the marketing of the property with renovation finance experts. I can tell you that my guess is that most agents, when they have their listing appointments, are not with homes that need some tender loving care or improvement, are not necessarily bringing up this aspect of financing, this type of options with financing. I'm a big believer in developing a niche and exploiting it, and a lot of the agents I work with are actually out in the marketplace looking for fixer-uppers because they know they can get in there and tandem with a Hudson United loan officer who is done a lot of renovation financing. It really helps that niche exploit is a big, especially in low inventory situations like we're currently in. And of course, creating new opportunities for agents. We don't want you to lose because buyers are frustrated. I have clients who've been in the market for a long time, like I'm sure many of you have, who do buyer representation. We can do a lot with the renovation loan program. The big secret is that virtually no agents are doing this, and you can stand apart from 13,000 agents in the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors as a specialist in this area if you exploit that niche, and we can help you do that for sure. So what are we talking about? And I'm not going to take a deep dive into the loan product or LTVs or some of the jargon we use in the mortgage business. Renovation loans to create deals. That's what we're talking about. The 203K FHA loan, the Streamline 203K renovation loan, the Homestyle renovation loan from Fannie Mae, and the jumbo renovation lending programs. Now, COVID-19 has impacted the availability of some of the jumbo renovation loan programs, but we're seeing a slow return to normalcy in the product availability with jumbo renovation. And I expect that as the economy restarts, we will see more and more product available for jumbo renovations. But in the meantime, there is Homestyle and there are 203Ks. And by the way, in Westchester County, Rockland County, Putnam, which are considered high cost markets, the loan amount can go as high as 700, I think it's 756,000.
765, 500.
765, 500, thanks, Chris, on a single family home. So that's possible, and 96.5% financing is available on the improved value in many instances. Again, we'll take those. If you have detailed questions, we can take those offline. If you have a specific property we're talking about and you want to know what could be possible in the way of financing. And we also do escrow holdbacks with a lot of our investors. Now, an escrow holdback is, let's say you have a house and there is an issue between the buyer and the seller, and the seller is not willing to fix something that needs to be taken care of. Whenever the cost to cure that problem, whatever it might be, it could be a deck in the back of the house that is splintering boards. It could be maybe a bathroom sink that's not working, a toilet, whatever the case might be. If we're looking at a $5,000 estimated cost to cure to fix that problem because the buyer is saying, hey, I'm not going to buy it like that, we often will do escrow holdbacks. Now, the way an escrow holdback works is we can use a conventional loan program on an escrow holdback, And we determine what is that cost to fix the toilet, or what is that cost to fix what never needs to be fixed in the house. If it's $5,000 or under, the escrow holdback can be funded by either the buyer or the seller. So the buyer can take possession of the property and close on it, and then the buyer can get their favorite contractor in there to fix whatever needs to be fixed. And the money, which funded the escrow account by either the seller or the buyer, is used to pay the contractor to fix and renovate that issue. I had a deal once where in Brewster, New York, and the seller did not have money to fix the problem. It was an illegal bathroom that was put into a closet in the bedroom, and the seller was not prepared to pay for it. It just didn't have the money, and the buyer had a real problem with it because it popped on the municipals. It was an illegal bathroom, and we needed to fix it. What we did was we put $3,800 funded from the resale proceeds of the sale into the escrow account. The buyer got the contractor in there to remove the bathroom from the closet, and it's all good. Deal closes. Everyone's taken care of, and you have a happy buyer and a happy seller. Now, the seller in that instance netted $3,800 less because they funded that escrow account out of the resale proceeds, but it was a real solution and what could have been a deal derailer. So really, really important. Looking at my notes here, the 203B loan is where appraiser requires the dreaded minimum property requirement. Close the deal, home buyer can do the work if she, yeah, we talked about that, okay. Chris Conlan is an expert in this area, by the way, when he gets into the granular guidelines. So how does it work? The loan size is based on the completed value in most instances. The buyer, your buyer walks through the house that's for sale that needs work with their favorite licensed contractor. The contractor provides a proposal which will provide some detail and labor materials on whatever needs to be done in the house or whatever the buyer needs to have done in the house. And we pre-approve that buyer so that they can go out and shop. The loan has one closing. You earn your commission and you move on to another deal. The portion of the loan allocated to renovate is paid on drawdowns to the contractor and to the homeowner after the closing. So now the buyer takes possession of the property and they get into the house and start renovating. A streamlined loan generally has two disbursements. More complicated, more expensive renovations may have multiple draws from the amount allocated for renovations. The finished product is a dream home for your client, and it's pretty rewarding to see the results a renovation loan can bring to a house that needs repairs, and a lot of people just love it. So what can renovation dollars be used for? So let's talk about the basic stuff. The basic stuff are kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, creating open floor plans, which is a big deal right now, removing load-bearing walls and creating an open floor plan. Wherever there's structural changes being made, like, let's say, for example, if you remove a load-bearing wall in order to create an open floor plan, an engineer does have to be involved in that. If an LVL beam is being installed in an open floor plan, renovation plan. Painting, decks and patios, landscaping, foundation or structural repairs can be covered as basic, and finished basements in the renovation dollars. Here's the cool stuff, and these are things that people would not normally think of that could be done in a renovation loan. Jacuzzis, a man or a woman cave, fireplaces, in-ground swimming pools. You could add additional square footage to the home. Outdoor living areas can be constructed or renovated, and construction of accessory units where permitted, and multifamily properties are allowed for renovation financing. I know I'm dumping a lot of information on you, but I wanted to get through this, and then we're going to have a really good question and answer period, hopefully. So having the conversation, so we're going to give you the basics, and we are your resource, and it's important that you as the agent at the initial meeting when you're defining their needs, prepare them for the possibilities that a renovation loan can be offered, and the possibilities a renovation loan will offer. Relate the availability of the programs and the basic features in your presentation to the buyer or the seller who's selling a home. It's critical at this stage of the sales cycle to create that vision, the idea, to bring your iPad or some home decorating design magazines to inspire them and show them what might be possible. Some people have a real difficult time creating a vision on what could be possible. I'm sure you've seen that. How many times have you walked a buyer into a home and it's a paint color they don't like? And they say, oh, I don't like this paint color. I'm not sure about this house. Well, paint. Some people just have difficulty creating a vision. And that's, I think, part of the challenge in turning people on to the possibilities of renovation financing. So at Hudson United, we are your resource. We provide what we call a renovation concierge service. And what that means is we're available to meet, consult, and qualify your buyer in your office. Now, you could tell this presentation was done prior to the pandemic, but we can do Zoom calls. And I think now we could actually meet in offices as long as we are following the CDC social distancing rules with masks. Because we have the material to inspire them. We can help create an understanding with your buyer or your seller about the possibilities renovation financing can offer. We can conference call when in-person meetings are impractical, as I just mentioned. We're accessible, we're responsive, and we are accountable. When we're working with your client, we're making sure that the calculations we're performing and the things that they may want to do with the renovation are possible within the terms of the guidelines, renovation guidelines. And what we do really well at Hudson United, some do it really well. Chris Conlan is an expert at communicating. We make sure we communicate from the pre-approval process all the way through to the closing. You know, people today are used to Amazon. You drop it in the basket, you buy it. You tell Alexa, you know, I want to buy this, put it in my basket. People love that branding, especially millennials. They're accustomed to the delightful experience. And Alexa's talking in my, Alexa off. You know, everybody expects that kind of experience today, and the communication is critical to that process, of course. And finally, Adam, and we're up to the last panel, and then we can dig into some questions. We want to form a strategic partnership today so we can help you turbocharge your business growth and uncover new opportunities that are out there in the marketplace as a result of low inventory. So thank you for allowing me to rip through those panels. I just felt in the interest of time, it would be best if I planted all these seeds, created all these curiosities, and now Chris and I are ready to answer any questions that anyone may have. I don't know, Adam, if you want to mentor those, moderate those questions for us.
I've been doing this almost 20 years already, and there's always something new that you learn. And I always knew about renovation loans, and I always knew that when things needed repair, I never considered doing upgrades. And that was something that totally enlightened me on a whole bunch of clients that throughout the time when we were looking at homes, when they'd be like, you know what, this would be the perfect home, but we're missing, and I'll use a pool as a perfect example, something that's probably a $40,000, $50,000 expense to put in, which they're not going to be able to put in after the fact because they're going to chew up all of their money. They're not going to have any equity in there. But I never once really thought about, because to me it was always a renovation for something that existed and needed repairing, not something that actually enhanced and upgraded the house. So, you know, I'm a little bit kind of taken aback and speechless because it's something that I had never thought of. And it's wonderful to know that that type of program is even available.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I really didn't spend time on that. But think about it: you could be having a buyer walk up to a perfectly move-in ready house, but maybe they do want to enhance it. Maybe they do want to expand square footage. Maybe they do want to add a deck on the back or a dormer to accommodate their family. This is the answer. So it's not just for fixer-uppers. It's also, to your point, to enhance the house, to improve it, to add a feature to it they may want.
And I think that, I mean, especially with the title, sell what's for sale. I mean, it totally makes sense. And we've all had that. Everyone who has ever been a licensee out in the field has gone and shown their clients a home. And they're like, you know what, this is perfect, but we want X. There's something else, whether it is an additional room, whether it's, another bathroom. And you don't think about, and I've heard that conversation. That's the funniest part. I've been in homes where they were like, this would be great if it had one more bathroom upstairs, or if it had another bedroom off the kitchen in the back, like looking at a massive backyard. So you're not worried about a building envelope, but it's the fact of, but where are we going to come up with the money? And with today's mortgage rates being as phenomenally historic low as they are, now that's a question that I'm going to ask, and then we do have some that kind of popped up with regards to it. How do the rates really compare to a traditional loan? Because it is a different product.
Yeah, I'm going to let Chris answer that because Chris is deep in that every day. Chris?
Sure.
So the market is a little bit different from where it was when before COVID. Rates right now, I'm pricing out renovation loans at 3.5%, which is a phenomenal rate. There are costs associated with that. So somebody may expect to pay a point in order to get a renovation loan at 3.5%. Whereas before COVID, I was at 3.625 or 3.75 with no points. It's just a shift in the market, but the rates are amazing.
Chris, let me ask you a question, and we all, wish we had the crystal ball. Earlier when we were doing these Hudson panels, they talked about the fact that the refinance, right now is having a massive boom, and that's kind of where the rates are. Would you think that historically that paying a point may dissipate in a year from now, or do you think that it's going to become part of that product in general?
The whole market with respect to paying points, and by the way, whether you're taking a conforming, an FHA, or a renovation loan, paying in points is something that everybody should be considering now. Not everybody should do it, but everybody should certainly consider it. I do expect that the benefit of paying points will wane in the future. It's reflective of this short-term COVID environment that we're in, reflective of fear that lenders have that loans are going to pay off early. That's simple.
Sorry, go ahead.
When the rates stabilize, and they may stabilize on a conforming loan at 3%, or maybe they'll stabilize at 3.25% or 2.75%, we don't know. But once there's a little bit more certainty as far as where the rates are going to be, I expect the points, the benefit of paying points to diminish, because lenders are not going to have the same fear of early prepayment penalties.
So what I want to ask, and it's a little bit of a basic question, but there are some people who are on the call who have not been in the industry. They've been in the industry for 6 to 12 months. What actually is paying a point? How does that impact the mortgage? What does it mean to the buyer?
So the term point itself refers to 1% of your loan amount as a fee. Okay.
So therefore, if I'm going to take out a $400,000 mortgage, it's a $4,000 fee for a point.
Correct.
All right.
And that point may take you from a rate of 3.5% on a regular loan to 3%. So you're essentially buying down your rate in many cases from what they call a 0-point rate to a 1-point rate. Could theoretically buy you down a full 0.5% in this market.
And that's really important. As we're talking about, selling what's for sale, this option of buying a point really does change it. A lot of times real estate professionals, when they're working with their client, think about what the monthly number is. And that monthly number really is how they determine what they can buy and what they can't buy. And what they don't realize is that for an extra $4,000, it could lower them a 0.5% on their mortgage rate, which over the long run may be more beneficial to them. So
you know what we do, Adam? we'll do a cost benefit analysis for the buyer. So we'll look at their asset position and we'll say, are you in a position to pay maybe a slightly higher closing cost because that discount point is picked up at the closing table? Maybe they're not, but we'll do a cost benefit analysis to see if it makes sense for them to buy down the rate or not. But buying down the rate, to Chris's point, if you're going to renovate a home, you're going to be in it for a while, then it's more practical to buy down that interest rate.
So I want to hit some of the questions that came up in the chat through this. And guys, as always, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat. I'll kind of reach out to them. So one of the questions obvious was these marketing packages that you guys have. What's the best way if someone's got questions about getting one of these marketing packages to reach out? And then a follow-up to that is this only for single family, or is this product available for condos, co-ops, multifamily, land? I mean, where are the parameters of the product?
Chris, why don't you address that? Because Chris has in the past he staged open houses for properties that need a lot of renovation, and it's a completely different concept, but it's surrounded with a comprehensive marketing plan to promote the property for the listing agent, and Chris has done a lot of those.
So yeah, thank you, Dave. Yes, part of the marketing plan does include helping you with open houses, and I don't know how that looks in this current environment, but helping with open houses, engaging people who walk through the house, get a high-level understanding as to why a house may need a renovation loan, having them look at the property from the eyes of not what the house is, but what it could be. I know a lot of times I help agents with open houses, and sometimes it's just asking clients or people to sign in. This is a much more active role on a house that needs work because we're engaging those buyers and helping them understand the renovation loan themselves. Clearly, we also have flyers. We've got payment flyers and that sort of thing. But probably the most valuable part of the marketing package is helping you attending the open house and exposing people to the concept of a renovation loan. It's been very effective for me and the realtors I've worked with. It really solidifies a relationship because we're having different conversations. It's not all just about the property, the purchase price of the house, and it's just you get just a much deeper conversation with the clients, which helps to bring them in as a buyer.
And I would also say to piggyback on what Chris had mentioned, we use a platform called Total Expert, Adam, which you're familiar with, and within Total Expert, there's a library of brochures and flyers that can be used to support the listing for the selling agent. Also, what I've worked with agents in the past who are going on listing appointments, and I mentioned this during my presentation, if an agent calls me up and says, I'm going into this house and this house needs some work, it's got to be decluttered, it needs some renovation, there's a broken window, there's peeling paint, whatever the condition might be, that's where we can present some renovation material for the agent to help with their listing presentation, letting the seller know, look, if we want to get maximum dollar for your property, we've got a team of experienced loan officers, and here's some material to give you an example of what could be done to help market the property that needs renovation.
Dave, you just hit my next question all the way out of the park with that one, which was, you mentioned again during the listing, and I would think of what a phenomenal listing tool that an agent could, keep in their arsenal of tricks when they walk into a home that does need renovation. And, there are times as, a real estate professional that you may decide that, this house is going to be way too much of a headache to really go through, and no one's going to find the right financing package. But to go and speak to, you and Chris prior to and sit there and say, hey, listen, I've got a potential dog of a house. It's going to need a really great, financing package to be able to walk in there, and then every one of the buyers that go through and be like, yes, and imagine the possibilities that could really come out of it.
No agents are doing that. Agents aren't doing that.
You're going to have it after this. I just opened it up to everybody.
I've actually gone on listing appointments with agents as support to help their sellers understand how a renovation loan is different and how that might change the nature of the process from the seller's standpoint. Because through the loan process, we do have to have a few more visits to the house. Okay. We have to have a contractor go in. Sometimes a consultant has to go in. So it helps to have the seller understand the nature of the loan that might be best used to sell the property, and help set expectations for them.
Right.
Chris, let me ask a question on that track. So, I know if someone comes to me with from Hudson United with 20-25% down in equity and 75-80% in a mortgage, and it's a conventional loan, I'm pretty comfortable that that's going to close, barring catastrophic. It is 2020, but catastrophic issues. Would you say that the majority of the loans, the majority of these type of loans that Hudson United puts together do come to fruition? I mean, or are there pitfalls that a seller would need to be aware of besides the multiple visits?
So as far as closing ratios are concerned, very, very high closing ratios. My process and what I encourage agents to do is connect us with prospective buyers as early in the process as possible so that we can have a high trust, no cost, no obligation consultation and explain to the buyers how these loans work. Okay, what are the costs? What are the rates? What do the payments look like? As Dave said before, the path is in the math. So how do things look? And the earlier we can get in front of somebody with that, the better opportunity we have to vet that buyer and determine whether they're up for this. Okay, these are not for everybody. Okay, sometimes I had one client in my office who looked at the loan and said, "This is crazy. This is really expensive." It really wasn't, but it took a while for him to understand the loan, and he ultimately went through with it. But that's only because we got in front of him early. Okay, if he had signed contracts and didn't understand the loan up front, it would have been a much harder proposition, because people feel they're backed into a corner. But if we get in front of somebody up front and give them numbers, walk them through the process, answer their questions, you're talking about a 95% closing ratio.
Knowledge is power. Look, everybody, knowledge is power. When they understand the numbers, one of my courses, I teach a process that I teach at realtors. It's called cost to own. And a lot of the agents on the call probably lease their cars. Do they care what it costs? They care about the monthly expense. We have a process where we develop cost to own. And what Chris is talking about is reviewing the numbers with the client before they go out into the field. That eliminates what I call financial anxiety because we dollarize the purchase. Now they can focus on the potential of the home. They can envision what it would take to renovate a kitchen with linoleum floors. And then they can concentrate on the important things, the house location, the design of the house, the architecture, the renovations, and not think, can I afford this? Is this possible? Because that is a deal killer. When people start thinking, I'm going to be eating hot dogs and French fries for the rest of my life and not be able to go on vacation, we eliminate the financial anxiety by doing what Chris says, which is preparing the borrower way up front for what they're getting into with the numbers, with the calculations.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I happen to like hot dogs and French fries. The vacation thing's another story.
I know you do. I've witnessed that firsthand.
I've got, there was two other questions that came up, and then we'll kind of wrap everything up.
Sure.
Which is it possible for this program to convert single-family homes into multifamily homes? And I see Chris is nodding his head, so I guess Chris?
Yes, this can be used to make a single-family home into a 2 to 4 family home.
Isn't that awesome?
It can also be used to make a 5-family home into a 4-family home, where you then get conventional type financing. So, if somebody wants to buy a property that's currently a 5-family, They need a commercial loan to do that, which means they're going to need 25% down. They're going to need a rent roll. They're going to need to meet all those things. Whereas if somebody buys a 5-family, they can convert it to a 4-family, and then they get financing at 96.5% of the value of that property.
All right, so I'm going to ask kind of a tie onto that one, which is, and it's only because I'm currently dealing with college loans. Can the loan be used to also help offset any of the legal costs that it would take to, have something rezoned?
Yes.
Yeah, soft costs.
That's because I think that's another one of those key things that people wouldn't think about. There is a cost to having, the attorneys and process through
Architects, architectural drawings,
and everything else.
permits.
That's really great. And then the last question that popped up is it difficult to find contractors to do these proposals?
Well, I'm sure everyone's had an experience with a good and a bad contractor. The contractor does have to go through a process with a renovation loan. And I know Chris and I know a lot of contractors. Technically, we're not permitted to direct a contractor to a particular renovation project. There's a lot of highly talented, qualified contractors out there. The really good ones are in demand and they're busy. So that's part of the planning process.
All right.
And just like prepping a buyer, having an honest, high trust conversation with a prospective contractor is very valuable. So A, we can refer. B, I can have conversations, or we can have conversations with contractors so that they know what they're getting into, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, I have to tell you that this was an amazing presentation. I actually got a few text messages from some of the viewers during this being, just completely floored. And there's been some wonderful things said in the chat room. So I'd like to personally thank you guys both for your time today. And just again, our presentation today were Dave Moore and Chris Conlan. They are our Hudson United loan officers out of our Elmsford office. And again, good friends of mine for a long time. And as you can see, wonderful information to kind of provide up. Dave, any closing thoughts before we sign off?
I'm a big metrics guy, and here's my closing comments. After seeing what you've seen and hearing what you've heard, do the agents on the call think they can muster up maybe 3, 4, or 5 more deals in a year just by leveraging the information that we've disclosed? And by the way, if anyone on the call needs more information, more detail from either Chris, myself, or your favorite Hudson United loan officer, just reach out.
That's amazing. Again, guys, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And for everyone who was on the call, thank you guys all very much for spending your Friday afternoon with me. With that, again, my name's Adam. It's been a pleasure having all of you guys here, and we will see you guys all next week.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everybody.